disclaimer, it's come to my attention that I constantly look like I'm sweating in all of my videos. It's Vaseline. I douse myself in Vaseline every single day, multiple times a day. I'm not on the verge of passing out. Just telling you guys, good beauty trick though, use it, keeps you youthful. Okay, let's get into the video. Hi YouTube. I swear every time I film in this room, like in the daytime, the HDR goes nuts and you can see like every little nook and cranny on my face, which probably isn't a good thing, but whatever. Today we're going to be talking about the Libra new moon, September 25th at 2 degrees of Libra, opposite Jupiter in Aries in a 1 degree orb, and conjunct Mercury in Libra at a 5 degree orb. But Mercury retrograde is super active in the sky right now, and we're going to have a conjunction with Mercury to Venus in Libra as well, trine Pluto, and opposite Neptune. I have my notes on my iPad as usual. We're just going to get right into it. So this is a nice kickoff to autumn. It gives me like a Gossip Girl like bang because it's going to be very flirty, very chatty, very chaotic, not in the way that we believe chaos to be with like Gemini or Uranus where it's all over the place, but rather like indecision. Do I stay? Do I go? This or that? Who said this? How did they say it? Who did they say it to? Etc. Mercury retrograde is super active in the sky, and with the added chaos of Mars and Gemini, there's a lot of information coming in and out and getting misconstrued and cloudy, and our visions being blurred a little bit. It's like lightning speed communication through the sky, but then also brushing some things under the rug, putting our rose-colored lenses on, being confused by other things entirely. So I think the main goal here is to just stay afloat and really roll with the punches, because anything that starts and begins right now within this retrograde period, so starting September 9th until October 2nd, we can't quite depend on to stick completely. The sky is looking a little chaotic and it's gonna bleed into the way that we communicate, but it can be very exciting and fun and chatty. So Libra is a cardinal air sign, meaning that air-like energy is really good at adapting and shifting and kind of being a chameleon, or like shape-shifting to new people, environments, places, situations, circumstances. It's really good at adapting and complementing the opponent. Cardinal energy always has it charging forward. It wants to progress. It wants to find peace. It wants to find balance. It wants to mediate, to find justice, and then move on to the next thing. It doesn't like to sit in one place for too long, and it gets quite bored once a person, place, situation kind of loses that initial glimmer. So a new beginning here is very fast-paced, very pleasurable, very tempting. I feel like there's this tugging a pull on like, should I do the thing that I know is gonna maybe cause some drama but will feel really good in the moment, will give me that instant gratification, and that here might be the thing to throw a wrench in the mix and cause some drama. So our main aspect to the new moon is a strong opposition to Jupiter and Aries within a 1 degree orb, which is really encouraging us to find the balance between the themes of the houses that Aries and Libra rule in our own charts. Generally in astrology, Aries rules self, ego, who we are, and Libra is our relationships. One's ruled by Mars, the other one is ruled by Venus, so it's very much, masculine versus feminine, direct versus passive. There's a strong head-to-head collision here between very aggressive and assertive energy and very passive and harmonious energy. This opposition in general in itself isn't problematic, like it's not necessarily something that's bad, but rather that we're being asked to kind of find the balance between the two in order to get our desired results, really combining the best of both worlds. So the moon is our emotions, our depth, the exposure and illumination of the deeper things. Every time we have the moon cycle into a certain sign, it's just going to embody the themes of that sign that it's in, but it's always going to be what we're feeling in that time. It's our depth, it's our intuition, it's the intensity of the collective, and with the opposing energy to Jupiter, the planet of good luck, expansion, good fortune, knowledge, truth, all of those things, we can kind of have a mixed bag of outcomes here. Jupiter is a benefic planet, meaning it's more often going to help us more than it's going to hurt us. Any aspects to Jupiter can typically be pretty profitable energetically or literally. So it's kind of gracing us with its presence here. However, Jupiter ruling expansion and being this very boastful, larger than life essence, there's an opportunity or a possibility to kind of blow something small out of proportion or amplify something to be much more bigger than it is. And this can even look like overselling ourselves, like, talking up a big talk, talking up a big game, but then maybe not being able to deliver or like overestimating our ability to do something. It could be taking a small situation and blowing it completely out of proportion to something very huge, or letting it snowball there. At its simplest form, it can just look like overindulging. Like it can look like maybe eating too much, going out and drinking too much alcohol. It could look like gambling too much, maybe taking retail therapy to the next level. With Mercury being so active here, I feel like it's going to be the overindulgence of like using your mouth and not holding your tongue, and then maybe having to pay for the consequences later and being like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. So you guys know I like to give you like a little visual to help you maybe identify like a very common denominator experience a lot of us have in life in order to be like, okay, this is the type of vibe that we're working with here. And I wrote down that this new moon makes me think of taking a child to a carnival and getting them super excited to go on rides, to eat funnel cake, to play games, and then on the way back home, they've crashed from all their sugar rush and they're surrounded by like stuffed animals and candy that they won in the back seat, facing the consequences of like partying too hard, going way too hard. So the moon will have a little bit of a looser orb conjunction to Mercury within the 5 degrees of Libra as well, which we know is currently stationed retrograde and will be super active in the sky with aspects to Venus, the ruler of the new moon, because it's Libra here and the ruler of Libra is Venus, as well as a nice conjunction, so between Venus and Mercury, and then a trine to Pluto. So this is going to add some intensity, some depth, some paranoia, the typical things that we deal with Pluto. In this case, because it's not the tightest aspect, it's not like the main heavy hitter here, but it is something that can kind of be maybe playing as like an undercurrent feeling for some of us, depending on where it's falling with your natal placements. And then we're also going to have an opposition to Neptune, adding some confusion, romanticization, or some haziness into the mix, in the sense that things may not be exactly what they seem right now. So I have to warn you guys to watch your tongue as usual, like I do with every Mercury retrograde, and just think before you speak. Measure what you're saying and the value of its importance. Is this adding value to a conversation, or is it causing destruction to a conversation? Meaning, like, while it might feel good to talk shit about somebody right now, is it something that you might have to pay for more later? Is it not that good of an investment? Or is there some constructive things we can say here that, yes, kind of satiate our feelings, but also don't completely obliterate an entire relationship? I'm trying to think of like realistic scenarios in which I could see this new moon playing out in order to give you guys something to work with. And it makes me think of just like a very passive aggressive confrontation where the directness or the confrontation of something is present, but there maybe won't be the exact conflict resolution that you're looking for. It's like saying something and being like, we need to talk about this, and then not actually talking about it. I feel like with the deception or Pluto involved as well, this can kind of look like something where, you know, a couple is on a break and the boyfriend's like, so sexist of me to assume it's the boyfriend, but the boyfriend being like, yeah, no, I swear I didn't sleep with anyone when we were on a break. And while he might not have slept with anybody, he hooked up with 5 people, but he's not including that. So he's not lying, but there's this deceptive nature of like, we'll talk about it a little bit, but we're not going to talk about, you know, what's underneath the tip of the iceberg. There might be this attempt to expose or illuminate the truth about something, but then ultimately maybe backing down or backtracking and deciding to either play devil's advocate, give somebody the benefit of the doubt, or rather make a decision that's for the greater good of the peace of everybody rather than finding peace within yourself. So what I mean by this is that with that opposition between Jupiter and the moon, so Libra versus Aries, it's like, do I do what I want to do, even though it's going to ruffle some feathers, or do I do what the majority of the group is happy with and just do what's going to make life easier for everybody, even though it's going to bother me a little bit? Within all this, it feels like there's a lot of side conversations or gossip or chattiness between like, oh, what do you think this person said, or who do you think is right and wrong, and like this balance of justice and karma and who deserves what within all of it. Blurred lines, miscommunication, and some snowballing of something that started off small and became this big inflammatory issue. I think there might be some selfishness present. I say lean into it. I always tell you guys to lean into selfishness. Obviously, don't step on toes, don't hurt people, but if you have to choose between what's right for me versus what's right for everybody else but is going to take away from my experience, choose yourself. With Mercury causing destabilization to things that begin and end within its retrograde period, so again from September 9th to October 2nd, and give and take a week between both of those dates, and the added confusion of the Neptune opposition, there's a chance that things may not be exactly what they seem. They might have a hidden layer to them in the sense that somebody could be like, yeah, this is what's going on, but that's not all the detail, like the example I gave before. Or maybe even just attempting to hash something out with some conflict resolution, and it being one of those things where you're like on the phone phone with somebody trying to talk it out. You went in with one intention, and when you hang up, you're like, what just happened? Like, what came out of that? It's like a little bit of progress, a little bit of movement, a little bit of action, but then a lot of open-ended curiosity still, or things that are up in the air, moving parts. I definitely feel like there's a 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of situation here. Maybe the need to compromise, or at the very worst, just needing to agree to disagree. So for the horoscopes for this new moon, I'm going to primarily focus on the opposition between Aries and Libra, because we have Mercury, we have the moon, Venus, and Mercury all in Libra opposing Jupiter being the biggest. So it's like this 3 against 1 type of energy, but the one over here, Jupiter, being like also very large on its own. I think we need to prioritize the need for balance here. And without further ado, I'm going to get into the horoscopes of how this new moon is going to give you some new beginning, and in what area of your life you can expect some new change, some movement, some new beginnings, a new chapter in the area of your life that this is affecting based off of your rising sign. Please go off of your rising sign. It'll be the most accurate. Anything else that you guys need, Patreon, booking, socials, my website, all that good stuff is going to be in the description below. I love you guys so much. That was so scary. I love you all. Happy new moon. Enjoy. It's the beginning of fall, baby. All the chaos is going to come soon. This is kind of the chillness, the Libra chillness before the chaos of October, November. So enjoy it. Go with the flow. Have fun. Lean into the changes rather than working against them. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I love you guys so much. Aries risings, this new moon is happening in your 7th house of relationships, contracts, business partners, open enemies, interpersonal connections, and collaborations. And there's going to be a head-to-head or a need for balance with your 1st house of self, identity, looks, personality, sense of self, perspective, or your approach to life. So this looks like new beginnings around relationships or commitments, which isn't limited to romantic relationships, and a need for balance regarding how who you keep closest to you is a reflection of who you are as yourself, as well as making sure that you get your fair end of the deal when it comes to partnering up with somebody for a shared goal. Taurus risings, this new moon is happening in your 6th house of work, health, habits, routines, pets, labor, structure, and jobs. And there's a head-to-head or a need for balance with your 12th house of dreams, fears, subconscious, self-sabotage, addiction, escapism, mental health, sleep, or hidden enemies. So this looks like new beginnings around a new job or work or health, possibly starting a new routine, and the need for balancing how positively or negatively that's going to affect your mental health. So really creating better habits that will support the vitality of what's going on inside and how that correlates to what you do in your everyday life on the outside. For example, eating healthier foods to have a healthier mind, working out to get stress out of your system, getting a new job that better aligns with your mental health, etc. Gemini risings, this new moon is happening in your 5th house of sex, romance, children, fun, entertainment, creativity, pleasure, and your inner child. And there's a head-to-head or need for balance with your 11th house of friends, associates, networking, making money, social media, groups and communities, and manifestation. So this really looks like new beginnings around sex, romance, or creativity, and the need for balance for how this affects your manifestations or the friendships around you. Really prioritizing what feels joyful and entertaining, and what serves your inner child, rather than making decisions for the greater good of the group. So possibly starting a new passion project or taking on a new exciting opportunity in collaboration with other people, or something that requires the support or the investment of others around you. Cancer risings, this new moon is happening in your 4th house of home, family, roots, inner self, private life, foundation, emotions, property, and what feels like home. And there's a head-to-head or a need for balance with your 10th house of career, public image, reputation, accomplishment, success, confidence, and assertion. So this looks like new beginnings around home, family, or a living situation, and how there needs to be a balance between this area of your life and how it correlates with your career or your ability to stand on your own 2 feet. For example, moving into a new place because you got a job offer out of state, maybe new beginnings with a family member that will support the success of your career, or a new chapter in your private life because of changes in your income, accomplishments, reputation, or professional world. Leo risings, this new moon is happening in your 3rd house of everyday communication, environment, people, content consumption, thought processes, communication, short trips, cars, transportation, and conversations. And there's a head-to-head or a need for balance with your 9th house of traveling, wisdom, broadening your horizons, looking outside of the box, education, perspective, and spirituality. So this really looks like new beginnings around your immediate environment, forms of communication, or even taking a short trip, and how there needs to be a balance between this era of your life versus getting out of your comfort zone and searching outside of the box to new horizons. There's a head-to-head between staying in a situation that's comfortable and familiar to you versus searching elsewhere, regardless of if this pertains to your physical environment, your perspective, your faith, or expanding your education beyond what you already know. Virgo risings, this new moon is happening in your second house of money, finances, values, possession, self-worth, emotional and financial security, ownership, and things that belong to you. And there's a head-to-head or a need for balance with your 8th house of sex, death, taxes, shared investments, secrets, privacy, and hidden information. So this really looks like new beginnings regarding your income or your self-worth and how there needs to be a balance between what belongs to you versus what belongs to other people, whether that's literal or metaphorical. For example, a new source of income or new investment or possession that is in your name but that other people feel entitled to, or a new beginning in terms of boundaries and self-worth and how this will really expose those who feel that they are owed something from you, or how you allow others to dictate the outcome of that new beginning. Stick to stability, not chaos. Libra risings, this new moon is happening in your first house of self, identity, looks, personality, sense of self, perspective, and your approach to life. And there's a head-to-head or need for balance with your 7th house of relationships, contracts, business partners, open enemies, interpersonal connections, or collaborations. So you're the star of the show here. The new moon is in your first house. This is a very exciting time for you, a new beginning, a new era of who you are. So this is a new beginning around self and identity and who you are as a person and how this will make or break your interpersonal relationships. So really stepping into a new era of yourself, whether it's dyeing your hair a new color or adopting a new lifestyle entirely, and how that will cause natural friction or cohesion between the people closest to you. Who are you on your own versus who are you in your relationships? Scorpio risings, this new moon is happening in your 12th house of dreams, fears, subconscious, self-sabotage, addiction, escapism, mental health, sleep, and hidden enemies. And there's a head-to-head or a need for balance with your 6th house of work, health, habits, routines, pets, labor, structure, and jobs. So new beginnings in terms of your mental health, addictions, and escapism, and how there's a need for balance between this area of your life and your physical health or what you do for work. Possibly a revelation or a psychological breakthrough in correlation to how your everyday routines and habits can set up a positive or a negative outcome to your inner world. Sagittarius risings, this new moon is happening in your 11th house of friends, associates, networking, making money, social media, groups, communities, and manifestation. And there's a head-to-head or a need for balance with your 5th house of sex, romance, children, fun, creativity, pleasure, and your inner child. So this really looks like new beginnings around friends, groups, communities, our manifestations, and how there's a need for balance between getting in touch with your inner child and what feels good to you versus where you feel you belong. So this could look like meeting a new friend or setting a new goal that will really require you to be more selfish with your fun energy and who has access to it. Capricorn risings, this new moon is happening in your 10th house of career, public image, reputation, accomplishment, success, confidence, and assertion, with a head-to-head or a need for balance with your 4th house of home, family, roots, inner self, private life, foundation, emotions, property, and what feels like home. So this is really new beginnings around your career and success and the need for balance between how this is going to affect your home or your personal life, possibly a promotion, a new job, or getting recognition for something in regards to your accomplishments, and how this may cause tension or even positive overwhelm with your family or your living situation. Aquarius risings, this new moon is happening in your 9th house of traveling, wisdom, broadening your horizons, looking outside of the box, education, perspective, and spirituality, and a head-to-head or a need for balance with your 3rd house of communication, everyday people, places, environments, content consumption, thought processes, communications, short trips, cars, transportation, and conversations. So this is really new beginnings around higher education, perspective, and traveling, and how there's a need for balance between stepping into new uncharted territory and looking beyond a new horizon, and how there's tension between your old self and the old you, or what feels most familiar to you. So you could have a new opportunity that kind of asks you to get out of your comfort zone, whether that's your literal physical environment or a new philosophy on life, and it may cause tension with the people close to you or the details around things in your everyday life and communication. Pisces rising, this new moon is happening in your 8th house of sex, death, taxes, shared investments, secrets, privacy, and hidden information, and there's a head-to-head or a need for balance with your 2nd house of money, finances, values, possessions, self-worth, emotional and financial security, ownership, and things that belong to just you.
So this is really like new beginnings around transformation and shared investments, both literally and metaphorically, with other people, and how this is going to cause tension or a need for balance between what is simply just yours and what belongs to you and nobody else. So this could look like a deep cathartic transformation in terms of stepping into new territory regarding self-worth, or something like signing a lease with somebody where you own X amount of property or something of value.